City News on TV Rotorua is proudly brought to you by Rotorua Central.
Good evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News. The Chamber of Commerce and Waiariki team up to offer local workers the chance to upskill. 4 sculptures from the city's recent sculpture symposium have been added to Rotorua Lakes Council's permanent public art collection, and another sellout race for this year's Tarawera Ultramarathon. The Rotorua Chamber of Commerce has published the event calendar for February with the return of the Business After 5, Kickstart Breakfast and Women in Business series. CEO Darren Walsh says along with the workshops is a push this year on helping upskill Chamber members with exciting learning opportunities in an education partnership.
Probably the most significant of them all at the moment is the Growth Acceleration Program, where we're working in partnership with the Grow Rotorua and Darren McGarvey and his coaching.
So what are the goals, what are the aims of Grow Rotorua and the Growth Acceleration Program?
Look, the aims are to take businesses that are already operating locally and profitably, take those businesses and triple their income potential. It's about lifting their performance, looking at the capabilities. When you're in business, there's a lot of capabilities. It's about looking at the gaps of those capabilities and training and closing those gaps. It's a 10-month program, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in those 10 months, and 2 hours of training every fortnight with Darren, but the gaps will be closed in those capabilities, and we're pretty confident that we'll turn businesses around.
4 sculptures from the city's recent sculpture symposium have been added to Rotorua Lakes Council's permanent public art collection. The Sulphur Lake Sculpture Symposium, with a theme of the returning soldier, was held over 2 weeks late last year at Rotorua Arts Village, with 17 local and national sculptors participating, including a guest artist from Russia. The sculptures now form part of the Sulphur Lake Sculpture Trail in Government Gardens. RLC Community Arts Advisor Mark Spikerbosch said community feedback on the Sulphur Lake Sculpture Trail had been phenomenal, and the permanent addition of 4 of the sculptures was a real asset to the city. In sport tonight, locals heading to Auckland this weekend for the NRL Nines are being encouraged by Auckland Police to respect the local alcohol bans, ensure valuables are not left in parked vehicles, and where possible to take public transport to and from the city. A sellout crowd is expected at Eden Park for the 2 days of competition. Meanwhile, tickets for our own rugby league game next month are selling well. The Vodafone Warriors take on Penrith Panthers at the International Stadium on February the 14th. The 2015 Valentine's Day match will be the central focus of a festival of rugby league and features community activities across the weekend, plus a Nines tournament and age group fixtures on game day to help launch the Northern Region competition. Next weekend's Tarawera Ultramarathon is another sellout, cementing the race's reputation as a must-do event on the running circuit. And this year, race creator Paul Charteris will fulfil a bet and run the 100 kilometres.
Myself and race director Tim Day are pretty much working flat out night and day to put it all together. There'll be about the 1,150 runners, there'll be about 2,000 to 3,000 spectators for the event, and we have a huge volunteer army of about 250 helping us out as well, so it's quite the mission.
Very good. So Tim Day's obviously taking charge of the event this year. Is that because you're actually running in it?
I am, yes, actually for the first time in 7 years I get to run in my own event.
Very cool.
Which is a really amazing experience. So Tim's a hugely competent guy, and he loves the whole event, so he's looking after everything on race day, and all I have to do is turn up on the start line with my shoes on and my running shorts and some water bottles, and off I go. I get to run 100 kilometres to Kawerau.
To your weather update now. Tonight, showers with light winds and an overnight low of 15. Tomorrow, Friday, long fine spells with evening drizzle, light winds, a high of 26 and a low of 17. And looking out to Saturday, occasional rain or drizzle with light winds, a high of 24 and a low of 17. And the marine forecast for Lake Rotorua for Friday, variable 5 knots becoming northerly to 10 knots towards midday, with waves less than half a metre, cloudy periods with fair visibility possible in drizzle. If you'd like to catch up on City News, you can find us on YouTube. Just search City News Rotorua and you can see headline updates on our TV Rotorua Facebook page. Still to come in tonight's program, we cover the recent visit by international scientists, including some from NASA, here to study and test equipment on our geothermal landscapes.
Kia ora everybody, it is my greatest pleasure ever this time to be doing this interview, and I have to say it is a moment in my life I will never forget. The past week has seen some of the most brilliant minds on our planet here in Rotorua and in the Central Plateau studying life, and it is a celebration of that life that we are here for today at Te Takinga Marae in Mauria. NASA are here, and they are here as part of a wonderful project called Spaceward Bound New Zealand. The lead of that project is a very, very special woman named Haritina Mogoshanu, and she joins me now. Kia ora, Haritina.
Kia ora, Kiri. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, thank you, Haritina. The pleasure is all mine. So can you tell us about Spaceward Bound and about this week?
When you look for life, you don't only do chemistry or you don't only do biology. You have this entire array of science, this entire array of technology that is helping you. And truth is that the spin-offs that came from space technology now are saving lives. We have mobile phones that we can use at all times to phone the hospitals, to get our dear people there. And that's a technology that came from space research. We have artificial hearts. That's another technology that came from space research. And very, very many things that we now take for granted that actually came from people's drive to understand what's beyond us. And none of these technologies actually really going into space. It all stays here. And so we have better air because of this research. We can keep our land clean because of this research. We learn how to be more efficient and more aware. And my favorite thing about what space research has done is when astronauts went first to space and they looked back at Papatuanuku and they realized how wonderful but how fragile and unique we are. And what inspired me the most was the fact that out of all the planets that we know of, out of all the stars that we're looking out of all that beauty there, we don't know whether we are alone or not in the universe. But what we know is that we didn't find anyone so far. And looking back at Papatuanuku from space and seeing that we're actually one, it made us more aware to protect her and take care of her. And I think that's the most beautiful kaupapa.
Kia ora, Haritina. Just absolutely amazing kōrero. What are your dreams for the future now? Where will this go and what will it mean for New Zealand?
My dreams for the future are to prepare citizens for the 21st century. And this is something we took from Ministry of Education aims and goals a long time ago. And it's a beautiful mission, because if you wish to be a citizen of the 21st century, you must be attuned not only to your environment, but also to your technology, to your people. But we cannot separate those anymore, and we have to use the best we can to help these kids, to inspire these kids actually to put it out there because they have the most brilliant minds. Kids have such wonderful minds, and that's why it was so amazing to see them here all this time and like flying the drones and mingling with the scientists as if they were doing the projects. And that's the beauty of Spaceward Bound, because just like Maori culture, Spaceward Bound is very inclusive, and nobody said to anyone else, you can't participate in this because you're not learned enough, or you don't have science background, or none of these have happened in any Spaceward Bound, which is one of the reasons this is so amazing that it's happening.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Hari Tina. We're going to go now. We're going to go for a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to go inside and see exactly what it is that Hari Tina is smiling so beautifully about. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to City News. It's my pleasure now to be joined by Steve Hobbs. Steve is from Canberra in Australia. He is a very proud Australian, but an even more proud space scientist. He is the creator of the rover that was at Sulphur Point on Sunday. Hundreds and hundreds of people were able to enjoy this rover while it's been in the country, and it is my pleasure now to be able to speak with Steve. Kia ora, Steve.
Kia ora.
Well, first of all, amazing work. Congratulations on how far you've come. This has been a long labour of love for you. So tell me about how, how's it all gone? How's the reaction been to your creation?
Oh, well, thank you. It really has been a labour of love. Mm-hmm. And I'm pleasantly surprised that the rover's worked really well. Everyone who's seen it's been very interested in it. I've tried it at 2 sites now, got some really useful scientific data for it.
Great.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about, for those that have never seen a rover and don't know what the purpose of it is, can you tell us a little bit of the background?
Yes, I can. So I'm with Mars Society Australia, and this was a project for them. I brought the rover here to look for extreme forms of life. So all of those cyanobacteria and really hardy organisms that live in extreme environments like on the side of a hot pool. So I designed this rover specifically for this trip, and it carries aboard 4 instruments for working out the temperature of where these organisms live and also finding out about the organisms themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
What got you started? I want to take you back to when you were a little boy. What got you started?
I actually can't remember the exact time, but I do remember I grew up on a farm and driving my father's tractors around and around in circles, and we'd come home at night time, late at night, and because there was no city lights, the stars absolutely burned, kind of like here. And I'd look up at the stars every night, and I thought, wow, I wonder what's up there. And then I got a telescope for my birthday, started reading lots of books, and it went from there.
Wonderful. So this morning we have seen lots of children out being inspired. Did that take you back to when you were being inspired as a child with your telescope? Someone got you a telescope?
Yes, it did very much, because all of the engineers and scientists and astronauts, they were little kids, and something that I've heard time and time again is how they were inspired by something somebody else did or something else somebody else brought. And I'm really hoping that what we do here with Spaceward Bound and what I'm doing with the rover inspires the next generation of kids.
Well, I'm sure it already is. I've seen them grow from the beginning of the week till now, and it is wonderful. Can we have a look at it? Can we have a look behind? Because it's just behind us. Can you talk us through it?
Okay, sure.
So we're down here now with the rover on the ground, and I'm going to leave it to Steve to do the talking. I'm going to leave it to him to tell you about what this is all about and what his dreams are for the future.
Okay, thank you. I'll start by describing the components of the rover. This is about the same size of a rover that went to Mars 20 years ago, launched by NASA. It's a good size because it's nice and light. It's easier to design, easier to build than, say, a larger rover. And for myself, who's had to travel across the ditch, I could actually physically bring it here. The rover's actually equipped with a variety of sensors, and they're all designed to look for those extreme forms of life. We've got a camera here that can take images in the bits of light that we can see, but also portions of light that we can't see. And it's designed to pick up things like vegetation, stuff that needs sunlight to live and grow. I've also got another instrument on the side here. It's called a spectrometer. And what that does is it breaks up the light into its specific components, and you can really work out like what rock types are, or even types of vegetation, things you're looking at. That was the first time I tested this instrument here, and I've had a lot of fun with it so far. On the top of the vehicle, I've got a non-contact thermometer. It's very similar to what mothers use to check if their children have a temperature or not without touching them, and that's what I use to detect the temperatures of these hot springs and get a bit of an idea of what we are looking at. To find out where I'm driving the rover, I've got a navigation camera here. Helps me not to run into stuff. All of the big boxes and things on the side are to help control it, control the instruments and return the science. I'm really happy with the rover's performance on this trip, but what I really want to do in the future is I've learnt some lessons, things that worked well, things that haven't worked well, things I would really like to collaborate with other people or get help on is navigation. At the moment I have to directly control this rover. It would be great if we could find some sort of autonomous or self-navigation system so we can put Junior on the ground here and he can go around and avoid things that might hurt him. I'd also like to try and refine my ground control system, because at the moment it's quite cumbersome on the field and it really slows things down. And I mean, lastly, I'd really like this to inspire the next generation of people interested in space.
Well, I know my sons came out and all they could talk about on the way home was Junior. They were absolutely blown away. And for me, having observed you over the week, it's been an absolute pleasure, Steve, and I wish you all the very best with everything that you do. Unfortunately, I can't help you with the navigation system. That's not my forte, but hopefully somebody out there can, whether you're watching this in Rotorua or you're watching it around the world online. Steve, how can people contact you?
Thank you. Mars Society Australia is a good contact point. We're on Facebook. We've also got a website up. We can provide those details. That's probably about the best contact. In fact, the President of Mars Society Australia, Dr. John Clark, is here today.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, we better go and just show him how wonderful you are then. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay, thank you very much.
We've moved inside now and we've come into the wharekai, but this wharekai has transformed into a hive of activity and learning. I'm now with Eldor Noe Dobria. Kia ora, Eldor. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing and what your role is with NASA?
Sure. Well, I'm a big fan of composition, of understanding what things are made of, because understanding what things are made of allows you to understand the history of the material. This happens for rocks, and this happens for just about any material. So what we have here is a commercial version of the instrument that's aboard the Mars Science Laboratory that is known as Terra. Basically, it's an X-ray diffraction instrument which runs X-rays through any material that you are analyzing, and it gives you the composition of the material. Or rather, it gives you a squiggly line that allows you to infer the composition of the material. And basically the pattern that we see here, all these peaks and so on, are basically the way the CCD detector has seen the material. The peaks are, the image is translated into this squiggly line. And then we match it up with a library of different minerals that we have. In this case, this is elemental sulfur. And every single one of these peaks corresponds to what elemental sulfur should look like to this machine. and the match is extraordinarily good.
Can you remember something that was the pivotal moment in your life and your work?
Yeah, it was always also when I was a kid. I became a huge fan of space exploration. I grew up inside a building in Colombia. It was a pretty dangerous place where I grew up, so we basically grew up in an apartment building. I think the first time I ever went out and saw the moon and the stars, I was probably 2 or 3 years old, but my parents told me that I was just completely mesmerized by it. And I remember pretty explicitly when I was around 4 just being completely in love with the stars. And by the time I was 6, I wanted to be an astronaut, of course. And that never went away. And I decided another way to be an astronaut and explore the stars is to become an astronomer, which is what I became.
Wonderful. And now you're working with NASA
and explore planets.
And so, what was that moment like? Did you go back to yourself as a little boy at any moment and go, I'm here?
Yes, of course. I never left. That little boy never left. I think the important thing is to never let go of that little boy.
Absolutely, and what a beautiful place to end it. Never let go of the child within. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Finally, now we're going to be talking with Matthew Reyes, who is working with NASA Ames in California. So can you tell us a little bit about you and your background and what you're here for?
Sure. So I'm the assistant to the chief technologist at NASA Ames Research Center, as you said. And my job is basically to help figure out how to make sensors and make the kinds of tools that scientists need, particularly the citizen scientists, those outside of NASA, and how they can help contribute to NASA's exploration of the universe. And so for this Spaceward Bound, what we've done is we worked with a high school student to develop a water sampling system on a commercially available drone. And so for this drone here, this is a quadcopter. It was a gift from the company, actually, DJI Global, who wanted to make sure that we could get some good imagery and get some good work with the scientists and the kids here. But basically, we have this sampling device that this drone can, this sampling device that this drone can collect water from in the various geothermal events here in New Zealand. And it was actually perfect to be here in New Zealand, as you know, because of your efforts to actually keep things really clean. And the necessity for NASA to have pristine environment. When we normally do this, we go far out into the reaches of deserts and other places where there's nobody around. But because of work like you and of the Maori culture here, the geothermal sites are so clean that they're actually worthy of exploration in spite of the fact that they're so close to humanity.
And what are your aspirations for the future of this kind of work in New Zealand?
Well, we know that there are other features here that we would like to explore. There simply hasn't been enough time during this trip to really explore everything we want to. But we want to develop a partnership with an institution here in New Zealand that could help figure out what other science can be done, where NASA can help, but also what kind of science can really be developed in country so that local New Zealanders, Kiwis, can do the science on their own as well.
And he is an adopted Kiwi. He's got a manaya on that he's worn for many years now. And thank you, Matt, for everything that you have done for me and for Papatūānuku and what you continue to do with your work. So.
It's been an honor and a great pleasure, and I'm very much excited to come back.
Kia ora, Matt. Well, that finishes our special on NASA in Rotorua and Spaceward Bound New Zealand. We are very much looking forward to the next trip and what the next development will be, and hopefully we'll see you there, Matt.
That was NASA scientist Matthew Reyes talking with Kitty Danielle. To contact City News, you can phone TV Rotorua on 07 3488 984 or email news@tvrotorua.co.nz. Thanks for joining us tonight. From all the team at City News, for Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News on TV Rotorua was proudly brought to you by Rotorua Central.